In 1799, a young boy named Kaspar Hauser appeared out of nowhere on the streets of Nuremberg, Germany. He could barely speak, had no idea where he came from, and had no understanding of his surroundings. He'd lived his entire life in isolation, in a small dark room with no human contact, no sounds, and no view of the outside world. Everything overwhelmed him as soon as he entered society. People gave him objects that he didn't recognize. They showed him a mirror, but he couldn't recognize himself. He didn't even realize he was a person. Nonetheless, in a matter of months, Kaspar Hauser had established himself. He took on a name, learned words, and accepted history as though he had always been a part of it. His mind filled in the blanks, creating a past, identity, and reality. Now think about yourself. You were born into this world, and everything was explained to you as soon as your senses began to function. You never questioned it. How could you? Everything was handed to you. This is your name, your family, the entire world, and everything is real. What if none of it was? Everything you experience takes place entirely within your mind. You believe you are seeing the world objectively, but you are not. You're seeing your brain's best guess for what's out there. Look around you. What you see is not reality. It's just light bouncing off objects which your brain interprets as shapes and colors. You don't hear actual sounds. Instead, you detect vibrations in the air, which your brain translates into something you recognize. Even your sense of touch is merely electrical signals sent to your brain that convince you that you are in contact with something solid. But here is the strange part. The world you see isn't even real right now. Your brain takes time to process reality, so you're always living in the past, milliseconds behind what's happening. Your mind fills in the blanks, making predictions about the present based on the past. Everything you see, feel, and think is out of date by the time you realize it, and this is where things begin to deteriorate. How do you know your reality is real if it's just a collection of interpretations, and you've never actually experienced it in real time? Take dreams as an example. When you're in a dream, everything feels real. Your mind creates the world, people, emotions, and even time itself. You fully believe in it. It's not until you wake up that you realize it was all an illusion. So, what distinguishes this particular moment? What if your waking life is only a dream, a long, consistent hallucination created by your brain to keep you functioning? Neuroscience has shown that your brain hallucinates reality before you even notice it. According to studies, your brain decides what you'll do before you make a conscious decision. Your brain created the thought you think you're having before you were even aware of it. That means the you who believes they have control is only a shadow of something deeper, an echo of past decisions. Kaspar Hauser created a reality for himself out of nothing because his mind craved meaning, just like yours. But if reality is simply an illusion created for you, who are you really? And if none of this is true, what happens when you stop believing in it? The illusion of the self. Who is truly in charge? Friedrich Nietzsche, a philosopher from the late 19th century, wrote something that many people found disturbing. There are no facts, only interpretations. He wasn't just discussing opinions. He was questioning the nature of reality itself. And when you think about it, he was correct. You do not see reality. You see your mind's interpretation of it. Right now, as you read this, you believe you are making a choice and have control over your thoughts. But let's put this to the test. Take a moment and try not to think. Completely. There are no thoughts, words, or images in your mind. See? You cannot do it. Thoughts arise spontaneously, without your permission. You didn't ask for that random memory that came up. You did not summon the thought of what you were going to eat later. Everything just happens. So, if you aren't the one choosing your thoughts, who is? This is where the illusion of self starts to crumble. Every belief you hold, every thought that arises is not yours. They are the result of conditioning, experiences, and stories you've heard since childhood. Your mind absorbs everything around it and forms who you are. But what happens if you take that away? Consider for a moment that you were born in a completely different time, place, and with entirely different parents. Will you still be the same person you are today? Of course not. This means that your identity, or sense of self, is not fixed. It's only a construct. Constructs can also be questioned, but this is where things get stranger. Modern neuroscience has discovered that the self you believe you are does not actually exist in your brain. There is no central control center, and you are the only one running the show. Instead, your brain is made up of millions of competing processes that collaborate to create the illusion of a single self. Consider it like this. Consider a crowd of people all shouting their respective opinions. One voice speaks loudest, and you assume it is yours. But then another voice takes over, and you're a completely different person, more confident, anxious, and relaxed. This explains why you can't control your own thoughts. Because the you that believes it is in control is just another thought. Now take this realization and apply it to everything you encounter. Your emotions emerge without your permission. Your desires come out of nowhere. You did not choose your fears. So, if you're not in control, what are you? This is the question that ancient spiritual traditions have pondered for thousands of years. Buddhists refer to it as anatta, or no-self doctrine. The Hindus refer to it as maya, or the illusion of the material world. Even modern science is beginning to validate what mystics have known all along. The self is a story. A useful story is still a story, and like any story, it is rewritable. Something changes when you stop identifying with the thoughts that arise in your mind, and instead see them as passing clouds rather than absolute truths. You start to realize that you were never the thinker. You were the awareness that drove the thoughts all along. But what happens when you fully embrace that awareness? What happens if you stop believing in the illusion completely? The fabric of reality is thinner than you realize. For centuries, people believed that reality was a solid, unchanging thing, something you can touch, measure, and define. But what if your entire experience is nothing more than a fragile projection? Science has already shown that your brain does not directly perceive the world. It can only interpret electrical signals. What you see is not light entering your eyes. Your brain decodes those signals into an image. What you hear is a real sound. Its vibrations converted into electrical impulses. Your thoughts, emotions, and even your identity are all patterns of neural activity that fire in response to these interpretations. This is where things get unsettling. What is real if your entire reality is nothing more than an interpretation? Think about a dream. Everything in a dream feels real. People, places, and even emotions. When you wake up, you realize it was all a dream. What if waking life is simply another layer of that? A dream that feels real because you haven't awoken yet. This is where the nature of perception becomes eerie. Consider the famous hallucination experiments carried out by neuroscientists. By stimulating specific areas of the brain, they were able to make people see, hear, and feel things that were not there. However, to those people, those experiences felt as real as waking life. If your brain can create an entire reality from nothing, how do you know it isn't doing so all the time? Think about how your mind fills in the gaps. When you look around, do you see everything? Or does your mind create what it expects to find there? There's a reason why eyewitness accounts are frequently unreliable. Your brain does not capture reality like a camera. It reconstructs it based on previous experiences. And things get weirder. Your past experiences influence what you see, hear, and believe. The same event can occur to two people, but they will remember it very differently due to their previous conditioning. This means that your mind is not providing you with an objective view of the world. It shows you a story that has been filtered through your conditioning. What's worse, you don't even realize it. So, here is the question. If your mind is constantly shaping, filtering, and constructing reality without your knowledge, how can you be certain that anything is true? Because if everything you know is merely a story your mind is telling itself. So what happens if you stop believing the story? You never really see reality. Only what the mind allows you to see. There's a strange experiment that shows how much of your reality is filtered before it reaches you. In the 1990s, psychologists conducted an experiment in which participants were asked to count the number of times a group passed a basketball. A person dressed as a gorilla walked directly through the scene, paused, waved, and then left. After the video ended, the researchers asked the participants if they noticed anything unusual. More than half of them never saw the gorilla at all. How is this possible? Their eyes actually saw it. The light penetrated their retinas. The information was present, but their brains deleted it because it was not relevant to what they were focusing on. That's just one small example of how your mind actively conceals information from you every second of the day. Take the same concept and expand it. What if your entire perception of life is a carefully crafted illusion? Think about it. Currently, your mind is shaping everything you perceive, your personal beliefs, opinions, and sense of self. It's like wearing invisible glasses that only let certain information through while blocking everything else. A simple example? Language. If you only speak one language, you become trapped within its mental framework. Other languages have concepts that your language does not. Ideas that your mind simply cannot process. The same thing happens with perception. Ancient cultures thought the world was full of spirits and unseen forces. To them, those things were as tangible as the air we breathe. However, our modern scientific worldview filters out those possibilities before they enter our consciousness. This prompts a disturbing thought. How much of reality do we miss simply because we've been conditioned to ignore it? This is why people who have profound awakenings or deep psychedelic experiences frequently report, "I can't unsee what I saw," because for a brief moment, they slipped past the invisible filters of their own thoughts. If you want proof that this is happening to you right now, ask yourself if you've ever had an argument with someone who saw things completely differently than you did. Have you ever remembered something one way only to discover later that it occurred completely differently? Have you ever blindly believed something, only to wake up years later and wonder how you could have thought so? That is the illusion in action. It's not that reality is fabricated. It's that you're only seeing a small portion of it, and you have no idea what is being left out. And the scariest part? Your brain is not simply filtering out random information. It is filtering out anything that does not fit with the story it already believes. This means you're not seeing what's real. You are seeing what you believe to be real. And this changes everything. Your mind is a storytelling machine. Every second of your life, your brain creates a story. The narrative is so seamless that you don't even question it. But this is where things get interesting. That story does more than just tell you what's going on. It determines what is real and what is not. Think about your dreams. Your mind accepts strange things as normal, whether you're floating through the sky, talking to someone who died years ago, or suddenly being in a place you've never seen before. It fills in the gaps so convincingly that you don't doubt it until you wake up. But what if waking life is simply another level of that illusion? There is a psychological concept known as confabulation. It's what happens when people confidently recall events that never occurred. Scientists have discovered that our brains frequently create details that appear to be completely real. For example, if you're shown a list of words such as bed, pillow, blanket, and snore, and then asked to recall them, most people will swear they saw the word sleep in the list, even if it never appeared. Your brain does not lie to you on purpose. It's simply designed to prioritize coherence over truth. This is why two people can experience the same event, but remember completely different things. Their minds filled in the blanks in various ways, filtering reality through personal biases, emotions, and past experiences. Now apply this throughout your life. The person you consider yourself to be, the story you've created about your past, identity, and values, is more than just a reflection of reality. It is a carefully edited version. Your mind did not simply record everything you've gone through, every success, failure, and belief you hold. It molded them into a narrative. What happens if something doesn't fit the story? It is ignored, rewritten, or twisted to fit. This is why when people encounter something that contradicts their worldview, whether it's a religious revelation, a sudden loss, or simply hearing a viewpoint they've never considered before, it can be deeply upsetting. Because it is not only new information, it's a flaw in the illusion. And as you look deeper, you realize that nothing you believe is as solid as it appears. What if your opinions, habits, and even your likes and dislikes aren't truly yours, but rather the result of a story created for you? This is not just philosophy, it's called neuroscience. Brain scans have revealed that when people make a decision, their brain decides before they are consciously aware of it. This means that your brain has already made a decision by the time you think you're making one. So if you're not in control of your thoughts, who is? When you see it, everything changes. You cannot unsee how your mind constructs reality, how it fills in gaps, rewrites memories, and creates a seamless illusion. You begin to wonder what else you have unknowingly accepted. And that's when something changes. You stop reacting automatically. You stop blindly following the script that your mind has been repeating. Instead, you become an observer, watching the illusion rather than being trapped within it. And this changes everything. If this has opened your mind in any way, you will want to watch the next video right now. It goes even deeper. Click now before the illusion draws you back in.